Hello, listeners, and welcome back to the Community Exchange podcast, where we sit down with friends old and new to talk about their careers, what's happening in the future of media and advertising. I'm Matthew Scott Goldstein, better known as
MSG.
Thank you, Matt. This is the perfect reason why I'm MSG, Matt Sanchez. As always, the Community Exchange podcast is brought to you by OpenWeb, the community platform of the open internet. Now we have a great conversation with Matt Sanchez, COO at Yahoo. Matt is an operating executive who scales digital platforms and optimizes revenue engines, leading strategy and performance across core consumer brands, one of the biggest ones in the world, and advertising businesses. Okay, Matt. So let's start, because I didn't know about this about you. When you grew up in Oregon, you were making what as your hobby?
Well, first of all, it's great to be here. I'm really excited.
Oh, yeah, that too.
For this conversation.
I just
we can start with the pleasant
okay.
things, right? But no, it's so grew up in Eastern Oregon, a town called Pendleton.
Near Portland?
No, it was pretty far in the northeastern corner.
Okay.
If you've heard of Walla Walla and the great wine they have there, that was kind of in that neighborhood of the world. So high desert, mostly a farming community, but got very into computers early on, and I had a idea with a friend in high school that we could custom build computers for people.
What year was this?
This would have been in 94, 95.
Wow.
And
wait, 94, 95. That's when I got my first Gateway.
This would have been
2000, right?
Right as maybe the 486 chips were coming out.
Okay.
My dad was kind enough to take the risk of giving us his credit card, and we would take an order, buy all the parts from a distributor, put it together, deliver the computer, get payment, and pay off the credit card inside of the 30-day grace period. And that was the working capital financing that we had to get the business
What
going.
was the margin you were making on that?
It wasn't great. We mostly poured it into building out a network of gaming computers in the house and
pretty
other
cool.
things that were really fun. But you know, it was a way to start to dabble and get into something that connected to what we love, but created a business.
And was it the gaming or just the computer parts? Like, what really brought you to that?
It was the computer parts. It was just
you knew there was something
connected to what's happening in the world now, but just the rate of change of, you know, the next processor speed and how to overclock these processors and kind of how to really kind of get into tuning all those things was just very fun.
Yeah, and I remember my first computer, I think it was in 94, 95, it was a Gateway 2000 was called.
Sure, yeah.
And it was that gigantic box, the gigantic tower. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, and then what happened? What'd you do next in your career? You went to the East Coast.
That sort of, you know, created the bug, and then I went to college on the East Coast, and with some friends from college started a small business helping nonprofits, and that led to a company called VideoEgg, which was, you know, a good chunk of my life.
Are you an entrepreneur at heart?
Absolutely. I sort of see a problem and love to figure out how to solve it. So.
And was VideoEgg your company?
I founded it with two other friends from school. So there's three of us.
Who were the other two people?
Dave Lerman was our CTO, and Kevin Slottick was led sort of business and partnerships for a number of years.
And what did VideoEgg do?
Well, we got started actually trying to solve the problem of how you get video to the web. Like, this was clear back when broadband was just starting to penetrate, and cell phones just started to have video capture on them. And
it's just amazing when you think about how different the world was.
Totally. And the big problem at the time was, how do you encode into a format that actually can be viewed on the web? And, you know, in our little nonprofit business, we had people sending us DV tapes with high fidelity video, because that was the only way that we could get to a format that we could encode at high quality to put on the web. And so we built a little plugin for a browser that allowed you to do a little bit of editing and client-side encode on your machine, and then you could upload a format. This was actually before YouTube even launched. You know, we sort of were out there thinking about, how do we help sites where there's already a lot of people spending time add video to the way that they were engaging. So we went to communities like Bebo, if you remember.
I remember
all
it all.
The second-tier social networks.
Bebo was bought by AOL, correct? And then it was sold later for like $1 or something. Is that right, or something like that?
I think Michael ended up getting it back for
pennies.
Not a lot.
Yeah. Okay.
Pennies is generous.
And then what happened? VideoEgg was what, 8-9 years you were there?
Well, so VideoEgg in 2011, 2012 timeframe, we actually rebranded as Say Media. So we bought a company called Six Apart, which was a blogging platform. You know, we'd done a bunch, video publishing turned into video advertising, turned into just kind of high impact, rich media engagement across all kinds of places where people were spending time in more of a lean back mode, created cost per engagement as a pricing model to get people into these very rich brand experiences. And then programmatic started, and we sort of had a strategic pivot of, do you get closer to the advertiser, do you get closer to the consumer? We made a decision to move closer to the consumer and really sort of get deeper into publishing. Bought a blogging platform, 6apart, which had typepad and movable type, and
VideoEgg became Same Media.
VideoEgg became Same Media as we put those businesses
and
together.
then you bought a blogging platform.
And then we launched a number of publishing brands like Exogene, and we bought Read Write Web and Dogster and a number of vertical.
Who owns
brands.
Same Media now?
So the Arena Group owns Same Media now. We sold that business in 2018, and it's the underlying platform for that business.
Okay, and after Same Media, where did you end up going?
Then I went to Hearst.
Okay, and it's what year? This is where I met you for the first time.
2019, I think. I ended up at
because I
Hearst.
consulted with Hearst for a while, and
Yeah,
your name,
absolutely. Yep.
And then I can go back to my Gmails because they're there forever and look you up.
We would have, we would have intersected.
Okay, and then what'd you do at Hearst? What was your role there, and how'd you end up going from startup to big traditional media company?
Well, so I was working for a number of years. A very close partner in the VideoEgg Same Media business was Troy Young, who was president of the business, and he, when he left, ultimately ended up going to Hearst and leading digital, and then became president. And as I was selling the business, we had a conversation about what was going to happen next. And for a number of reasons in my life, it was time to move to New York.
Oh, you weren't in New York?
I was in the Bay Area at the time. Yeah.
Oh, from the whole career, in the beginning of your career. Okay.
Yeah. And so things lined up, and I moved to New York and just decided to spend a couple of years really helping that business transform digitally, and got into all kinds of interesting.
And what was your role at Hearst?
Things there as well. I started leading the autos group.
That I remember distinctly.
I was car and driver, road and track, and then I had a number of hats there. I led what we called media platforms, which was product engineering design for Hearst magazines, and also led CDS Global, which was their the distribution company that they owned that did a lot of direct mailing and
for like every magazine out there.
Yeah,
like
absolutely. It was the fulfillment company for, I think, something like 85% of the industry.
And they had the kick-ass database of all the people getting those magazines, right? They still never figured out.
Unbelievable business. It could have been Stripe. It could have been
because they were payment processing everything.
All of the subscription platforms that are out there, that business could have been that. But at its core, it was running on old mini mainframes from IBM and 10 million lines of COBOL, and that was a really interesting transformation challenge of how you think about reinventing that.
Today, you could reinvent that pretty easily, probably.
I mean, if we had the tools that existed in the last 4 months, then
you could have changed.
It would have been a very, very different challenge.
Okay, we'll put a pin in that. Okay, so you're CDS, Hearst, and then what happened?
And then started talking to the Apollo team as they were doing diligence.
Okay, tell everyone who the Apollo team is.
So this is Reed Raymond and his team at Apollo, who led the acquisition of Yahoo out of Verizon.
Okay, and they bought it for
about $5 billion.
$5 billion, and then they immediately, once they bought it, they sold off a couple assets, getting back the $5 billion.
They had a very good plan going into that deal,
which is amazing.
How to understand. Which was one of the most attractive things about it was that this is some incredible asset with tremendous scale and still significant consumer engagement. It was 100 million DAU and number 2 mail platform in the world, and yet there was really kind of controlled downside in the deal and almost unlimited upside in terms of what we could go create. And real opportunity to evolve the consumer experience.
And what year did you start working for Yahoo? At what role?
That was 2021.
Okay.
Came in right as we closed. And initially led some of the core consumer businesses, and then last year moved into.
And if I remember, it's Yahoo Mail, it's news, finance, homepage.
Finance and sports are part of the Yahoo Media Group.
Okay.
But yeah, news and homepage, our search business, our mail business, and then all of the kind of platforms that power our consumer businesses. So things like our ad server and our CMS and our data platform and that kind of thing.
Right. So you went from Hearst, which was big, to Yahoo, which is as big as it gets.
it was
Right.
it was a big scale step function. The amount of traffic that we're doing in a day dwarfs what most major media businesses are doing.
And then once you got
In
into
a whole
Yahoo,
month.
once you got into Yahoo in 2021, like where do you even begin? Like what do you even do in the beginning when you're there to start to figure out what to do next?
Well, I think the biggest opportunity for us was just to get closer to the consumer and really understand where were we adding value, how were consumers relying on us, and then how do we start to.
Did you do a bunch of research for that, or was it?
I think a lot of good product work is certainly UXR, but it's also just really getting deep into the consumer journeys of what's happening and what feels right and intuitive, and what's the data saying about what people aren't using or what the drop-off points are,
And then make decisions.
and then really making clear decisions about, and kind of having a clear thesis for where are you going to create something that's useful that really solves a problem for a consumer, and gets to something that actually can grow because
Right.
it's worth using.
Did you bring on a bunch of new people?
Yeah. So one of the key things that we did. So Jim Lanzone came in as CEO, and he and I really spent a couple of months just trying to understand what was going on, and then he has a playbook for transformation that starts with getting more product-oriented GMs aligned to key products.
Say that again, because that's such a huge. Say that again.
So he has a transformation strategy that really starts with getting more kind of product-aligned general managers that are very connected to each individual product, and building around that so that we have deep connection between, what does Yahoo Finance do and how can it really serve a consumer well, or Yahoo Mail.
Because sometimes I believe in the publisher world we're in, there's not too many product people inside these organizations, let alone leading a brand.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's his MO and he's bringing in product people or people with product expertise, that's such a huge advantage compared to everyone else.
I think that's a really good observation of sort of where media has maybe evolved to in the tech landscape. I think one of the things that's really unique about Yahoo is that we're a product company. We're not a media company. We're not deep
Okay,
tech.
producer Andrew, there's your headline. It's a product company, not a. No, that's serious because like people don't think about that. It's so important.
Absolutely, and so then you're starting with.
And you're a product person, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and so you're starting with, like, what are the jobs to be done? What are the consumer pain points? How are you actually what utility are you providing that's going to create any kind of daily habit with whatever it is that you're there to do? And so news isn't about how many articles and how many page views. It's, am I actually helping you understand quickly what's going on in the world? And if I do, then I get 5 days a week of your time, maybe for 5 minutes. And if I can grow that to 7, that's a great outcome. And if I'm not delivering on that value proposition for you, then you're not going to use me. You're going to use Apple News or Google Discover or whatever that is. And so when you start thinking that way, and then you're building products around the utilities and jobs to be done that really, really matter, it reorients where you're investing. And so we brought that discipline to really kind of breaking up what was a functionally matrixed company into GM-led businesses with really clear product engineering, business development, marketing, content.
Correct me if I'm wrong,
functions.
but I think I looked up all your GM product people who run your different areas of the site, and I didn't know any of them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They all came from felt like a different world.
If you really dug in, what I think we've really kind of leaned into and love are either people who've run startups or people who've been chief product officers or heads of product various places, because you really, in doing that, have to think about the orchestration of how all the pieces and parts fit together to deliver value for the consumer at the end of the day.
And could a smaller publisher do the same thing by bringing in these people? Because
this is a fascinating conversation. I think 5 years ago, it would have been very difficult because you're seeing the margins and the revenue in decline.
Right.
That compression makes it harder and harder to invest in functions that aren't core to what you have to get out the door every day. And I think what's happened just in the last couple of months is this.
You're going back to
capability.
January. What's happened in January and February, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, and that explosion of capability, I think, actually has the potential to change that equation. And for the most product-minded media leaders, can actually start to think about, how am I solving problems instead of just creating content that's going to drive
That's
discover traffic.
assuming the C-level people of these organizations have the wherewithal to allow someone in to do that.
Absolutely.
And they give the product people carte blanche to do what they need to do, which doesn't always happen.
Doesn't always happen, but I think the kind of at the core of it, foundationally, that wasn't possible 5 years ago. I think the sort of fundamental, the underlying conditions that might actually create that kind of opportunity exist now in a way that didn't before. And now it's a question of who has the fortitude or vision or sort of risk profile.
As we were talking about before, a year ago, if you had some idea, you couldn't really do anything with it. Today, if you have an idea, you could actually figure it out quicker than you ever could before.
Probably overnight. Like the creating product itself is now fungible. It's a very trivial problem. It's a question of how do you get distribution around that? What data are you bringing to that problem?
Okay.
It's just a different place to be.
Does that mean the websites I go to that are not Yahoo, I should see those products evolving quicker than I've ever seen before this year and next year?
I think that if we are going to see these businesses survive, it is going to be because they transform themselves into utilities or daily habits that have some place in my life that make that a meaningful place to spend time, irrespective of how I might have discovered it before. And that might be helping plan my dinner. It might be connecting to a community that helps me more deeply engage in my love of, classic cars or whatever that is. But it's going to be about a different kind of second order level of utility and engagement than just reading an article.
And it's not about you used to produce 30 articles a day, now you need 40.
Right.
Like that's the wrong logic. It's about the story you're telling and get people to come there. Okay.
That's right. Yep.
Okay. What were the biggest highlights you had since you've been at Yahoo? Like what are the biggest things you're proud of?
Well, I think one of the things that's been most exciting about the last year and a half is just starting to see a couple of years of spade work and laying the foundation of whether it was our revenue engine or rebuilding product velocity. We've relaunched every pixel of every major product in the portfolio. We just launched.
Redid everything.
Created a baseline to really start to innovate now. We just launched Scout, Yahoo Scout.
Did you do that in-house?
All that in-house, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And that meant rebuilding engineering product design cultures across all of these businesses.
Like Yahoo Mail, everything, Yahoo homepage, everything was redone, new code from scratch. And I can imagine some of the code must have been 20 plus years old, right?
Not only that, but Yahoo had kind of forked everything and kind of made their own version of everything. We had our own version of Node, we had our own version of PHP. So there's a lot of kind of in-house tech that we ultimately had to move past to get to where the industry's at.
Okay, you just brought up Scout. Tell me more about Scout.
Yeah, so we launched Yahoo Scout earlier this year. That's something I'm really excited about because that's really the first net new product that we've introduced and is I think kind of.
And that's Eric Fang, who I've met a couple times, who was fabulous.
Eric Fang came in. We bought his business symbol last summer and came in and has done a phenomenal job of leading a team to very quickly get to a product that I think is our version of where the next generation of search is going and kind of how that's going to evolve as you move from 10 blue links to actually helping people get answers to their questions and then guide them to whatever it is that they're trying to get done. And
and there's attribution more so than
that's right. So we have taken a point of view that there's a real opportunity to support the open web to be more connected to all of the sources that are leading to that answer. And so, we've really tried to highlight links out to sources that drove whatever we're answering for the particular
And I think all
question.
the publishers are grateful that.
And we're seeing great feedback from the community. I think you won't see the same volume of clicks that you might have seen from 10 blue links, but the clicks that you will see are going to be highly qualified, deeply engaged in whatever it is that they're going to. And what we hear from consumers is that kind of knowing that those links are there, even if you've answered that question, actually
Well, it makes you
builds
feel
confidence.
It makes you feel better about the answer when you
Yeah,
know where the answer came from
absolutely.
instead of just
Absolutely.
blank space.
Yep. So, so that, I think, building on all the data we have at Yahoo, some of our partnerships, importantly with Anthropic using the Claude model as our primary model there, and then Microsoft for the grounding API, so that we
Were you always using Anthropic Claude as your core model? Did you know that that was the one to use when you started doing this?
Early on, we did some testing, but really kind of centered in on using that model pretty early on. Yeah. And we'll see how things change over time. Everything it feels like it's asymptotic. We're kind of approaching a tremendous amount of capability in all of these models, and it's going to be more about price and best fit for how
And
they're
where do
used.
you see Scout going? Like
I think there's
this is V1, right?
Yep, absolutely. So there's so much we can do to personalize.
And this is Eric, who's running it, who's a product X.
That's right.
Ran a company. That's why he's okay.
That's right. Yep. And was the early chief product officer and CTO of Hulu, and has his was at Flipboard as the CTO. It's deep product chops and consumer.
The
product
perfect
chops.
person based on you and Jim, your philosophy to
That's
come
right.
in to run
That's
something.
right. Yeah. And so you just think about we see something like 18 trillion user events a year at Yahoo. We have a knowledge graph of over 1 billion entities. We have all of this data that we can help personalize how we answer a question for you. And on top of that, obviously the key partnerships that we talked about with Anthropic and Microsoft can create a result that we think will just get better and better as we get more personalized. And then that starts to blend into how do we help you accomplish your goals and achieve whatever outcome you're looking for, and start to get into more task-oriented things. So I think that's just a natural jumping off point to how do we become more agentic over time in going from that answer to an action.
And do you know what the biggest category of searches are on Yahoo Scout now?
We see a lot of kind of what you would expect. So health.
Because I knew the answer.
It's one of the things that we find most encouraging about the usage that we're seeing so far is that a lot of traditional search you see is nav, just how do I get to whatever site I'm trying to get to. What the data is showing is this is truly an answer engine. Like, people are really engaging on key topics.
Right, and then if it's a answer engine, instead of getting 1 or 2 words, I assume for a search query, it's probably 5, 6, 7, 8, 9,
That's
10.
right. Like,
and then there's follow-ups and everything. It's a whole fundamental change about how you communicate with this.
That's exactly
how you have the conversation.
That's exactly right. Yep.
And then so Scout was a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
Any other big products like that on the horizon, or?
Watch the space. I think we're very excited about where we're at. I think the product velocity is just accelerating for us, and whether it's new products or net new functionality on top of our portfolio, the thing that we didn't anticipate in 21 when the deal closed was AI and the impact that would have to the business.
Well, no one's. I mean, you might have seen it, but most people haven't seen it all.
We did not see it. It was not in the not on the bingo card. But ultimately, that has fundamentally changed how rich and powerful we can make these utilities. I mean, imagine what we can do on top of Yahoo Mail. You may never have to open an email again. We may be able to just create a much richer experience for you.
What I did the other day is I realized that every time I make a credit card purchase, it goes into my Gmail.
Mm-hmm.
My Gmail now is connected to Claude.
Yep.
So it can give me an update every week or month. What did I spend my money on? How much does that change my behavior, and what can it do for me? And what happens with Chase when I don't need to use it as much?
That's right.
Like, everything's up for.
And then there's no reason why it can't start recommending using a different credit card, or taking a follow-up action because it knows that you bought X, and so it found a discount on Y, or
auto suggest like you forgot to reply to this person, or
that's right.
Or my favorite one is you haven't spoken to this person in a year. You used to speak to them all the time. Do you want to send them an email? Here's a sample of the email. Say yes, and I'll send it to them.
Yep, absolutely right.
Like, there's so many. It's endless what you could think of but we never had the ability to think of it or even comprehend what it is. And now you can do it.
And you know what you're seeing is this explosion of functionality, and I think it's only going to accelerate.
I like that term, the explosion of functionality.
It's sort of everything's going to be a one of one. You know, you're like whatever works for you in terms of the news digest you want to read or the way you want to interact with your mail, you're going to be able to create.
And to me, it feels like all the habits of what we've done over the past 5, 6, 7, 8 years are all up to potentially change.
For sure. In ways that I don't think we've even fully understand or have adapted to yet, because it's hard to imagine yet exactly how, like, where these things are going to save your time.
Right. And like for me, like I like to keep up with the news. I hate getting the newsletters all the time, and I get like 10 of them. So now I have Claude saying, go into my email and tell me what newsletters I got and what articles are there multiple times. What do you think I missed or are the best? And it's unbelievable what it does. It surfaces things that I would just miss.
Right. And, you know, there's no reason why that couldn't turn into a 2-minute podcast that you're getting every morning that is just what you need to know.
That's what I want. I want to go walking for my dogs and say, by the way, here's your chief of staff daily digest of what's in your Gmail and your calendar. Don't forget about this. And ask me questions, and I'll say, yes, do that.
Yep.
Okay. How does community work in the world you're in of Yahoo, and what happens in this LLM world, and how does that all fit in?
Well, I think that social proof layer and community is going to be more important than ever, because
you said something like your community is old cars, right?
Or I was just referring to your you might have a real interesting.
I thought that was your interest.
Cars. I was just going back to my Hearst Autos days.
Hey, all right, or golf.
The bring
a
golf. Trailer.
Okay,
golf maybe for me, but that layer of, you know, how did people like this restaurant, or what are people saying about this product, or, you know, if I'm going to go to, you know, this particular country or city, what are the things I have to see? You know, yes, content matters, and yes, like that search result is going to be an important input, but I think as important or increasingly important for consumers is going to be what do people that are like-minded have to say about this. And so that layer, I think, is essential to how do we build results or experiences for consumers that are not just grounded in data and information, but also what the community has to say about something.
But sometimes my favorite communities are smaller communities. Like I like a community of like 15 to 20 people. Mm-hmm. I feel like when it gets too big, I don't know what's going on. It's not personal. I don't know the people. And that's like my favorite community is always WhatsApp or iMessage.
Yep. And those are very, very curated. I think what you're going to start to see
they're curated communities.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think what you'll start to see is, you know, we see hundreds of thousands of comments as an example on Yahoo every day.
It's too much.
It's too much. But if you put AI on top of that to actually start to pull that together into something that's specific to not just the topic, but also our understanding of what you're going to care about related to that topic.
Well, also
that starts to create a very different outcome for you.
Well, also, if I knew the community was people like me answering the questions, it might be more interesting than some random person who's not like me.
That's right.
Right. So
I think that not just, I wouldn't think about it just as filtering, but actually kind of packaging up a very different experience for you. The utility of that is much higher. The value in that for you is much
right.
Much
even
higher.
If I'm on the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal, I see, you know, this article has 700 comments. I'm like, that's meaningless
too much
to
right.
me.
You just opt out.
Right. Just I don't care. I never look at it. It's too much to do. But if you had AI on top of it and it said, here's 7 people like you and here's what they said, or this person posts all the time about these types of articles, like it gets much more interesting.
That's exactly right.
And then maybe I can actually converse with that person, ask them a question back,
right,
and have a conversation and meet someone new.
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
So that layer couldn't be more important, but you're right. It needs to be organized and made sense of in order for it to have value in your life.
Otherwise, it's just like it's more slop, right?
Yeah, totally.
Okay, and where do you see you said you weren't a publisher. You said what's the term you used?
We're a product company.
Where do you see first of all, are there other media companies that are also product companies out there?
I'm sure there are. I haven't thought deeply about that, but there are certainly product companies where media is an important element.
Right, but like,
Amazon Prime would be a great example.
Okay, but is the New York
that.
Times, you consider them like a product company?
I think that the way that they have approached gaming and their subscription business and the value they're adding in cooking, I think they've very much brought a product ethos to how they're building that business.
But it's rare.
I think it's the exception, not the rule.
Okay, and then where do you see product companies or media companies going in the next year or two? Like it's really hard to do long-term planning today with what's happening, but like where do you think they're going?
I think
and going back to like, and does Google Zero just hurt these companies so much and kill the top of the funnel?
I think it goes back to this question of what role are you playing in the consumer's life and how are you showing up there? If the only thing that you were relevant for was, you'd created the search content farm to rank on a particular query on Google, and that's 80% of your traffic, then your brand and your business probably doesn't have a deep connection to the consumer where you're adding value. If you're in the New York Times and you have a game that a whole lot of people like to play with their friends and
talk about it,
and
it's a community,
it becomes part of culture, and
right,
and that's actually a daily habit, then you have something very different. You have a very different connection with the consumer daily. And so
I think it's an important term, the daily habit.
Yeah.
If it doesn't become a daily habit, it's going to go away.
That's right. And so I think if everyone is brutally honest about where they sit in that equation, and not just where they sit today, but where they might be able to get to over time, that's the formula for whether or not you have durability or no.
It would be interesting if we all listed what our daily habits were every day, and you see how many you have, and then you compare that next year, and you see sort of what comes in and what comes out. And how
think about even in your life, like there is a set of things you do when you start your day. You're probably checking your inbox, and there's probably 2 or 3 websites that you go to, and you're maybe checking X and.
No, I don't check X. LinkedIn.
And,
yes.
LinkedIn, and it's worth actually thinking through why. Like, what am I getting out of this? What's the value?
Oh, like I'm always looking for interesting questions to ask people when you bring them together. But like, hobbies is one. But like, what are your 10 daily habits?
Yeah.
Besides brushing your teeth and taking a shower that are media related, gets really interesting. Like for me, I was talking to producer Andrew. My new daily habit, listening to books on my phone.
Mm-hmm.
And I love it, and it made me a more interesting person. I can't remember the name of any book that I'm reading, but I can tell you all about
there's some
the book.
nugget in there, right? That you remember.
So many nuggets.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then when I'm in a great book, I just want to go back and walk my dogs or go outside and just focus on reading the book. It's a daily habit now, but then it took away from other things I was doing previously.
Yep. But I think, it just goes back to that product company question. It's kind of at its core, that's everyone has to understand how they're adding value, how they're building that daily habit, or they don't have a reason to be in the consumer's lives.
And how about Google Zero and the fact that I believe publishers are not great marketers, right? They've had people come to their website without doing a lot of work. They just got there. But now that Google Zero happens and search sends less traffic to your website, you're missing that top of the funnel. So which means in a year or two, you'll have more people becoming your daily. What happens with that, and how do publishers become better marketers?
Well, I think if you really step back on some of the most successful media brands out there, just measuring page views from Google is not necessarily the sort of current measure of a successful business. If you just think about a brand like Vogue, for instance, young people understand Vogue. They know what that brand means, but they're experiencing it on TikTok and Instagram.
Yeah, experience it everywhere.
And so
off-platform, yes.
We say off-platform, but I would argue that that's not a thing anymore. It's like looking at it through the lens of the .com is maybe not the best way to understand the value of that media business, because it actually is a multi-platform brand that has to kind of reinvent how it shows up in people's lives and what its point of view and what it has to say and its trust means for a consumer. And that I think is the sort of reorientation or evolution that we're going through here, where things that were just reliant on a particular distribution source and sort of what the kind of gaming what the mechanics of that distribution source was in order to drive revenue, right. We're just optimizing a short-term kind of version of the world. But there are durable brands that are going to have meaning in people's lives over time that are just going to show up differently. And they might show up in a commercial setting, they might show up in culture, they might show up with celebrities or influencers on different platforms. It may not just be page views on a .com.
Well, speaking of that, what are the most important KPIs you look at across all of Yahoo?
The most important thing we're looking at is days visited in a month. How many?
But that goes back to DAUs and MAUs.
Right. Yeah, it's that daily habit though for us. We have.
Again, I don't think too many publishers in the East Coast think about it that way.
That's why I think we're more of a product company than a media company. We're thinking about what are the
I got it. You've only said it to me 20 times. I think I got it.
We say it a lot internally too. It's what are the core utilities that are playing a role in consumers' lives, and if we're adding another day per month because we're adding value in your life, then we're succeeding.
And what analytics tools do you use for all these metrics you're looking at?
We use all the same standard tools everyone else uses.
Do you use Chartbeat or Marful or Parsley?
We use Google Analytics. We have some in-house.
Okay.
We do use Chartbeat. So we're using a pretty broad set of metrics.
Okay. Let me ask you a couple more questions. So you have two kids, and they're how old?
2 daughters that actually just had birthdays in the last month. So they're now 2 and 5.
Okay. And then how do they consume media? How do they think about media? And what do you think about their consumption of media? Sorry, products.
Well, it's they're still very, very young, so they don't consume a lot of media yet.
But the 5-year-old, I'm sure, is getting
the 5-year-old.
And is she going to PS234 yet?
She's not going to PS234, okay. But we're kind of right in that zone of starting to get ready for kindergarten next year. I think that there's this sort of beauty in storytelling and building characters, and that you see particularly in children's content.
Yes.
That one of the things that we're trying to do is lean more into some of the longer form content that's there, so that when she does consume content, we're spending time on longer form. But we're still in that phase where there's not a ton of screen time.
Is that hard to do?
I think that as long as there's other things that are engaging, or they sort of learn to sit in their boredom, we get there.
Okay.
We manage.
So today is March 6th, and this will probably drop in April. But there's a couple questions I want to ask, because we got all the good stuff. I got to ask my Claude questions now. Okay.
Let's do it.
This is okay. Are you using Claude Code? Are you writing code? How much has the world changed in the past 2 months?
I am using Claude Code. I would argue.
You were a programmer before?
I have a computer science background, so it's I haven't written a line of code in production in, I don't know, 20 years.
But you probably wrote one last night.
But in my own life, I'm using it to write things that I'm using, and for me, that's a way of understanding what's going on. You ask if I'm using to write code. I don't think that's the conversation anymore. I think that we are moving to a place where engineers aren't actively writing code. The agents are writing it.
Right, so they're giving the verbal commands.
Orchestrating requirements, specifications, and really kind of thinking about what's the scaffolding around the...
So then the product people become even more important.
I think all of that's going to blend together in a very meaningful way. Design, product engineering, what you can do actually building something, going from idea to functional prototype.
It becomes all about what you can imagine.
Absolutely.
And most of us never thought it's, if you could imagine it, you can build it. But it feels like
that's right.
So
I think the product management disciplines of understanding the user, doing the research, really thinking about the consumer journey. Does everything actually hang together? the key partnerships that are going to be important to make a product work. Those are,
When you say partnerships, you mean
if a product you're building relies on a data feed or
okay,
a distribution partnership or whatnot, those are going to be really critical elements of the product management function going forward. Grooming Jira tickets is not long for the world, and so I think everyone's going to have to reimagine their roles.
What are you using Claude Code for then? Like, can you give me a specific? He hesitated.
One of the things I've been doing is I have a fun little site where I'm building casual games so that I can kind of play around with different ways to use databases and create kind of persistent sessions and do login and create multiplayer type experiences and that kind of thing.
And you've seen the fundamental changes happen in the past 2 months, right?
I think it probably started around November, December, but this last 4 months there's been a complete step change in what was possible.
And does everyone in your organization see that, or is it just some people now?
I think everyone recognizes that things have changed, and what we're now trying to do is really help support as quickly as we can. How do we help people move toward that that new set of capability and opportunity to work differently?
But did you know the change was afoot in November, December, or really Jan, Feb? Because for me, who I think I know a lot, it only kicked in for me the past week or two.
I think in December it started to become really obvious that something had changed, and by the time we came back in the new year, it was game over.
And do you have people in your organization who are just now 10, 20, 100 times more efficient because of what's happening?
I mean, there are a couple instances I can think of where we have engineers working with 5+ agent frameworks that are writing code 24/7, and they're probably 100+x more productive than they were before.
That's insane. So will I see enhancements in the Yahoo product over the next couple months because of this?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Will I notice it?
Yeah, I think you will. I think you will see the velocity pick up, but
and I assume
you will also see the depth of what's possible change, because we can bring this kind of inference capability to the consumer.
And I assume I'll see it in other SF tech-based products as well, right? Like whatever.
Well, I think the challenge that is facing the industry now is that imagining and creating something is now easier than it has ever been. Like the distance between that can be measured in days in most cases. The question of how you are going to market that to new consumers,
that I think is the hardest thing. It's like you can build all these products,
or how you're going to get a scaled number of Anthropic users or OpenAI users to connect their inbox to ChatGPT or Claude, so that it can deliver the kind of value you're talking about. Because again, it is now all about distribution and data. Like, those are the things that matter. The middle part of what is the product itself, you can just execute on that so quickly now.
Is it
that the reason I'm saying that is because I think there's going to be this explosion of ideas from startups and individuals that have something they can create, and some of it's going to be phenomenal, but getting through the app store or getting onto your phone or getting,
but we're only talking about digital
products.
We're talking about digital products, not physical products, right?
That's
It's
right.
all the digital products.
Yep.
Okay. And is this exciting? Is it scary? Is it both?
I think that, certainly in my lifetime, I've not seen a more exciting set of conditions.
Okay.
It's unbelievable what's possible.
Okay. So we have 3 more minutes. I want to ask one question. Okay. What does New York become in the next couple years? Like, as people get more efficient, there's more free time. Like, what does New York evolve into? Because New York probably has more white collar workers, I think, than pretty much any city in the US, I would assume. I could easily double check that. Today I was walking in the Oculus. I want to hold up a sign that says, will AI impact your job? Please tell me what's going on, and just sort of get a sense of what everyone thinks. So what's your take on what New York becomes?
Well, I think I'd be interested to know on a ratio basis if that's true, or if it's just kind of by absolute numbers. But I think New York is one of the most interesting collections of people in the world, and
Old, young, and everything in between. Yes.
And there's more ideas and restaurants and art spaces and kind of
Museums.
people experimenting with different ways of living or doing things or expressing themselves than you could find almost anywhere. And my bet is that just accelerates, because as you get more efficiency in whatever work you're going to do,
There's more.
the people that want that really interesting melting pot of ideas and creativity are going to gravitate to a place like New York. Does New York get more residential? I think almost certainly the shape and face of what New York is as a city changes over time. But I think if you're love that ethos of kind of creativity and vibrance of culture, this is going to be a phenomenal place to live for decades to come.
Bars that evolve in New York instead of I went to the bar, you listen to the records, a record bar. Will there be creativity bars where you go there, you talk to someone else, and you bring up Claude Code, let's come up with an idea and try to build something, and here it is.
I mean, now you're getting into the intersection of what's happening with alcohol consumption and like what's the role of the bar. But I think there's going to be creative spaces like that could be fundamentally
instead
different.
of going to Zero Bond or Cipriani, there's going to be more creative ones like this where you just come up and here's new ideas.
I mean, maybe there'll be places where you go and build a game together and kind of play the game in
there's a lot of space,
an interactive kind of surface or something like that. I don't even think we can imagine what's coming over the next couple of years.
It's like science fiction.
Yeah.
Okay, Matt Sanchez, you are absolutely awesome. The product guy, producer Andrew, thank you everyone. This was awesome. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. This is really fun.